Hello, Justin. I called you here at the TOCICO conference because I wanted to ask you to explain one point of view of yours that has made you famous, which is who is responsible for revenue in a company?
Well, so in a typical organization, you tell me which department's responsible for revenue.
Oh, sales.
So the more interesting question, that one's an obvious one, right?
Yeah.
The more interesting question is which department should be responsible for revenue?
Well, sales.
So I would make two claims. The first one is fairly asinine. The second one is more interesting. The first claim is no, that's not correct. The operations, not sales, should be responsible for revenue.
Obvious.
The second claim that I would make is that it's obvious that operations should be responsible for revenue.
Really?
So, yeah. So, in order to the burden of proof rests with me, right? So, in order to support that claim, I would suggest that if I direct your attention to two simple observations, and you agree with those observations, you're probably going to end up agreeing with me that operations and not sales should be responsible for revenue. So here are the two observations. You can tell me whether these are correct or not. The first observation is that in a typical organization, in any reporting period, most revenue comes from existing customers repurchasing.
Yeah.
Probably 70, 80%.
No, more, yeah. Depends.
Sometimes more.
Yeah.
Okay. The second observation is if you look at the reasons why in a typical organization customers defect on the occasion that they do and take their business to a competitor,
Yeah.
the top three reasons why customers defect, and these three tend to lead all the other reasons by a country mile, are number one, not happy with the delivery performance of the vendor.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, not happy with the pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, not happy with the product. Either the performance of the product or the range of products in the case of a multi-line seller. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're the two observations.
Okay.
So if you consider them together, revenue in any reporting period doesn't come directly from salespeople. It comes from customers repurchasing. Indirectly from salespeople, not directly from salespeople. Now, if you point salespeople to that observation, they will jump to their own defense immediately and say, well, we understand that, but our role is to ensure that those customers keep purchasing. Mm-hmm. The reason they keep purchasing is because we look after them, right? Except you can't really draw that conclusion, because if we look at the reasons why customers leave because they're unhappy with the performance of operations. It's very, very rare that customers leave because they're unhappy with salespeople. Mm-hmm. Delivery performance is a responsibility of operations, not sales.
Right.
Pricing, operations, not sales, hopefully. Product is a responsibility of operations, not sales. So why would we hold sales accountable for revenue?
Okay.
The sales department doesn't have its hands on any of the levers that directly influence revenue. Operations is responsible for all of them.
Well, then what are sales meant to do?
Well, what sales could perhaps do is win new business.
Okay.
So new accounts and new categories of business from existing accounts. So the idea would be that salespeople would focus on winning new business, and as they win the new business, they would toss it over the wall to operations, and operations would look after it. So operations would recognize that it's their responsibility to essentially exploit the value resident in the annuities that are won by the sales department.
Okay. And presumably they also deal with RFQs, requests for quotes?
Well, if it's an inbound request for quote from an existing customer, yes. If it's an inbound request for quote and inertia is in your favor, then why would you want to involve a salesperson with it?
Okay.
Salespeople's critical skill is the ability to persuade. And persuasion means that, well, persuasion's a pattern interrupt. So you have to think very careful about, well, what are the patterns that we're trying to interrupt? If inertia is acting in your favor, if a potential customer's asked you to present them a proposal and you feel like, unless you propose something ridiculous, you're probably going to win the business, the last thing you want to do is involve a salesperson. That's a pattern that doesn't need to be interrupted, particularly if it's an existing customer and they do that repetitively. The pattern that needs to be interrupted is your non-customers insisting on spending money with your competitors. That's a pattern that needs to be interrupted. So our advice is you need to retool operations so that operations has all of the capabilities and all of the capacity that's required to do a fantastic job of managing accounts and exploiting the value resident in the annuities that sales wins, thereby leaving salespeople free to focus exclusively on winning new business.
Okay. And if I'm right, you have a fairly impactful way of explaining why if a salesman says that the market is saturated and there are no longer any opportunities, that might not be completely true.
It's generally not true. Salespeople are clever. They don't complain about an absence of opportunities. They complain about an absence of qualified opportunities. Mm-hmm. And the significance of that qualified word is that salespeople would rather that they sold only to prospects who are walking towards your organization in the process of handing you money, because it's good for their win rates if they sell to folks who are already in the process of purchasing. But if you're a smart manager or business owner, you would recognize that it's not good for your business to have your salespeople focusing on selling, in inverted commas, to folks who are already in the process of purchasing. At least from you. Your salespeople should be focused on selling to the folks who are in the process of purchasing from your competitors. In other words, who are not qualified according to a salesperson's definition. So we don't want salespeople pursuing qualified opportunities. We want salespeople pursuing opportunities.
Which is why you say that counterintuitive thing, which is that it's not necessarily a good idea to have high win rates.
No. If your salespeople have a double-digit win rate, it's because they're not selling. It's because they're intercepting inbound business and claiming responsibility for it.
Okay. Well, that's a short extract of Justin's machine or
of my twisted mind.
And your twisted mind, yeah. But with very convincing arguments, it seems to me. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll repeat the starting point, which is who do you think should be responsible for sales or revenue, right? And probably not the sales department. That's his idea anyway. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.